Hello everyone, thanks for watching this video. I'm very excited to see that we have a new group of financiers and that you are watching this video to understand better what are the financial processes actually in Austria, as in Isaac. And in the upcoming couple of videos, I'm going to be explaining you basic concepts that are good for you to know before you come to TACO, but also for the rest of your term. So you can always watch these back and see how these are still relevant for you. So today we're going to start off with the financial processes, like before mentioned already. And I'm going to show you my screen, walk you through a presentation, but mainly going to keep it practical so you really understand how do these things look like in actually the systems that we use. Cool. So I'm right now sharing my screen with you. And yes, very shortly, introduction EB Academy to financial processes, right? So in Isaac, we have different financial processes. And the first four that I'm going to mention to you are accounting, rebudgeting, realizing, and reporting. So I will start off with accounting because accounting is basically making sure that all transactions that you do as an organization, all transactions that you make are properly recorded and are analyzed upon. So we make sure that everything we do from the financial aspect is recorded so that people in the future can look back at it. And on the second hand, it's illegal if you don't do accounting. So I hope to work together with you to make sure that we can keep our accounting at a high standard. Because right now we can still see some mistakes happening. And for me, it is that we actually have a clear vision of how our different entities are doing. Secondly, and it's in between brackets, but budgeting. Budgeting is basically making your financial plan for the year. So as we plan numbers in terms of exchange, we also need to plan money throughout the whole year. And we do this by creating our budget. Now, I will not go too much into the budget right now because there's a separate space for that next week. But budgeting is for us to keep track of where do we want to spend money on throughout the year and how can we best allocate this to realize more exchanges. Third point is realizing. Why is realizing so important is after you planned, you need to make sure that you stick to your plan. And you need to understand how did I not stick to my plan and what reasons did this have. So also in this session, we will go, even though we're not going in budgeting, we're quickly going into realizing and the things that you need to do. So we can go into the last point, which is reporting. So after you have made your plan for the year, you record the correct transactions throughout that year, you realize the numbers that you need to make, then you need to create a report for people to understand how are we actually doing in terms of financial aspects, right? So reporting is not just showing a presentation to show what the current state is and how we have done. No, it is an activation for your different LCVPs to make sure that they also stick to the financial plan that you created together. Since budgeting, like before said already, is quite important, I will also go into how you can make sure that you create the plan together and stick to the plan together in an upcoming session. But right now, for this one, we're going to focus on accounting, realizing, and reporting. And we're actually going to do it in that order as well. So take your notebooks, take your computer, probably it's already in front of you, but we're going to use these things to make sure that we're going to go into a practical experience so that you know exactly what it looks like and how you can use it. So for this, again, I'm going to change my screen. So we're going to go into Wave. So if I'm not mistaken, somebody just joined the video. Natalie, am I correct? Cool. Can you see the Wave dashboard at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, perfect. So this is what I'm going to show you. I'm quickly going to enter. Sorry, I'm already in full mode, so that's fine. Yes, so this is the Wave dashboard, and I used an account named Isaac in Österreich, but as you can see, all of the different LCs actually are here as well. And this is because I have a viewer/editor account so that I can help you assist in how the things are going. And if there's mistakes, I can help you to correct them and make you understand better what is going on. So that is the upper left corner. You can here see all the well, you can see your own account. Then this is the dashboard, the very first page that we're going to look at. We're not going to go into this create new button because this one allows you to do anything. And I think it's better if you specifically go to certain places for that. So we're going to start here with, wait, before I start with going into the numbers, I want you to understand that for the sake of this presentation, all numbers are fictional. These are no numbers that were actually made because the MC uses a different accounting software, but I needed to put numbers in there for you to understand what it looks like. So on my screen, you see here the overdue invoices and bills. This is a very quick representation for you to understand what is the money that people still owe to me and what is the money that I still owe to people. It's a quick overview. Don't use it as a guideline. It's just for you to be very aware of it from the first page onwards. I have here the cash flow report as well. So when does cash come in and when does cash go out? Personally, I'm not using this at the moment because I have an external cash flow balance because I think it works better than the way that Wave is representing it. But we will also go into this in a later session. So here you can see the cash flow. Then we're going to go to bank accounts and credit cards. In most cases, your LC does not have a bank account or a credit card linked to the accounting software because the accounting software does not allow you to do this. In some cases, you do have a credit card linked to here, but in general, I would suggest you to not use it too much because I know that it can come with very high costs. Next thing on the dashboard is the profit and loss statement. As you can see, I just implemented these numbers in September and October, so it doesn't show much. But what you would normally see is that you can see the income and expenses throughout the whole year. And you can see this for the last 12 months and the last 24 months. Yes. So you also have a bit better of an overview, like, okay, how did it look like in 2 years? In general, you will see two main peaks on your dashboard. The main peak in November, December, so around this time, and between February and April. This is the time that we also have our realization peaks and that approval peaks, and this is where most of the money comes in. So this is for you to have a quick overview of when does my money go out. So you can also globally understand, okay, when do I need to make sure that I have a specific amount of money on my bank account, because I know in this period I may have to pay more, or I know in this period I need to save more because there's money coming in. Important thing here is, and Wave also says it, income and expenses as a principle are always measured by when you create invoices and when you create bills. Payments for invoices and bills, that is something completely different. That comes back in your cash flow report, because cash is about cash coming in and going out of your business. So literally when you make a bank transfer. Profit and loss is when you recognize your revenue. I just realized that for you guys to fully understand all of the financial terms, that I will add another session to the EB Academy, so you can watch this back later as well. Then the next part that all of you should also have is the payables and owing. So here you already had like a quick overview of the overdue invoices, so the ones that were too late being paid or too late that you still have to pay. Here it shows everything. And in general, you can see multiple classifications of what is the length that you still need to pay or get money. If it's coming due, it is still fine. It just means that there has no deadline been passed yet that is set on the invoice. As soon as it hits 1 and 30 days, that is money that is just late. So you send a first reminder. When it goes to the 31 and 60 days, that's a moment that you should start worrying and should worrying. You should actively start calling your partners or your students, especially students, because students should never come here. But for partners, that's when you should start calling them to remind them of the fact that they still need to do payments. 61, 90 days, I would here always start sending the first real reminder. I don't know the name in German, but it's basically the first official reminder of the fact that the payment is being late. And generally, when you come in here, you should start thinking about contingency plans for if you don't get the money anymore. Because if the money is 3 months late and you've taken these steps in making sure that people pay you, then there's a high risk that you will not get the money ever. I would highly suggest you to take these things, to look at this on a weekly basis and make sure that you're very much aware of which money you're still supposed to get and on what time frame. Because it's a very big thing that, for example, partners end up not paying for such a long time that they don't even pay anymore at all. So the payable and owing section. Next is net income, which basically breaks down from last year and current year. What were your income, expenses, and your net income? Basically, net income is the income minus expenses, so your profit. For this, every year, we need to make sure that we are at least in profit. If you're in loss, then that means money is going out of your LC, and there's probably something wrong with the way you did budgeting or you manage your resources during the year. And I guess, as you can all understand, if you don't get more money in than goes out, at some point you're going to go bankrupt and the LC will cease to exist. So very important to look at, very important to see as well how were you doing in prior years. But it doesn't mean that if in 2017 you had a very good financial year, that in 2018 it's okay to have a loss. Because in general, you should always aim for at least a small profit. So you can make sure that your LC is sustainable. At some point, there's a big chance that you will get high reserves. Right now, the entity is not in high reserves. So I would not say that this is something that would come up in your term, but at least make sure that you understand that you need to build up reserves, and only when they become super big, you can think about like investment plans. Expenses breakdown, I personally don't a lot. It shows you where are you putting your money in. So you can see small amount in promotion recruitment, phone, penalty fee, other costs, OPS, and other. It's funny that a lot is under other because this is just because I put in random numbers. Something which is important is that we're aiming for more than 50% of our expenses to be direct expenses. Now, what does direct expenses mean? Direct expenses just means that you're spending your money on the exchange products. So not on anything else, but just exchange. It's difficult right now for us, like I already said, because I don't think we are making enough money from our exchange product to reinvest the money in there. But you should always aim to push more money into your exchange programs because that is also where the money comes from. Now I'm gonna quickly ask, and I'm quickly gonna view. Yes, we just still have Natalie as a viewer. Do you have any questions concerning the dashboard?
No, not so far.
Okay, amazing. Then we're gonna leave it at this for the dashboard. If you have any questions, feel free to write me on Slack, and I will explain it to you. In general, the dashboard is just a quick overview of your different financial processes that you have. We're quickly gonna go into, let me see, how can I do this best? I'm gonna go for reports. Because I think it is important for you to have a little basic background knowledge. In finance, there are 3 financial statements which you should generate at least on a monthly basis. And they're stated here. It's the profit and loss, which is the income statement. It's the balance sheet, and it's the cash flow report. Now, I'm quickly going to go into all 3 of them so you have an overview of what it looks like. For the profit and loss statement, this shows you how much money you're earning and spending in a specific period. So this is always a range. So for example, here it's from the 1st of January till the 6th of December. And it shows me what was my income, what was my cost of goods sold, and what were my operating expenses and my net profit. Quickly to show you, the income side is all of the different things that we're getting money from. So you can see conference income. If you're organizing team days and your team needs to pay, you can see EB days income. If you're doing an IGV approval, you have IGV approval revenue. Revenue is the same as income, basically. If you're doing an OGV approval, here you have OGV approved revenue. So these are all the accounts. What is important for you to know is that the chart of accounts is aligned throughout the whole entity. There is a possibility on a different one of these, I'm going to show you later, to add accounts, but you should never do this without consent of the commission. Because as soon as you add another account, the whole commission needs to add this account, and I need to update my realization templates, because otherwise it will not appear on your realization and also not on your report. Therefore, it is extremely important to remember, never just add accounts if you don't know where to put something. Just ask the commission, hey guys, where are you putting this? So we always use the same ones, and we can compare to each other what are the main difficulties in different LCs or what are the main strengths in different LCs. So again, income, just explained. The next one is cost of goods sold. Now, normally you would see income and expenses, but here you see cost of goods sold and operating expenses. And this is because there is a big difference between the two and an important difference between the two. Costs of referred to, so the money that you need to spend on your products, right? So I can give you some examples. If you do promotion, you can see flyers, posters, ICX, flyers, posters, OGX, incoming preparation seminar, info and promotion evenings, outgoing preparation seminar, online promotion for all the products, reintegration seminar, sales costs, approval fee MC, IGV realization fee MC. Don't get scared. This one doesn't exist yet, but we already adapted the account in here for the case that something like that would start to exist. But you can see they're all linked to the products, and they're all specific for one or multiple. That's cost of goods sold. So literally the cost that you make for selling your goods. Now, operating expenses, on the other hand, are the expenses that you need to make to exist as an organization. So again, you can see here all the different fees that we have in our internal process. You can see expenses for socializers to make sure your members are still engaged and happy, internet, marketing fund, office insurance, phone bills, rewards and recognition, transition, you'd speak forum costs. You can see all of these are things that we need to do to keep our organization existing. Yes, so this is the profit and loss statement. Here you can export it, but we will go into that a little bit later. No, I'm sorry for these messages popping up. I don't know how to turn off notifications from Facebook, but I guess that's fine. Let me try one thing. No, okay, it is fine. We're just gonna continue like this. Yes, going back to Wave. So here you see a button which says show summary. Always when you export it, you should show details, because right now you cannot see like what comes from where. It's just a very quick overview of what goes in and what goes out. But in general, I don't see that as very useful. Pick this one. That was the first report, profit and loss statement. Any questions from the audience? I guess not. Then we're going to move on to the balance sheet. Now, the difference between a profit and loss statement is that it shows you how you were doing in a specific period. But you should also look at this state. So here, for the balance sheet, you can literally see, I'm just going to show details, how are we doing in terms of, how are we doing at a specific moment? So an overview is your cash and bank, which falls under your assets. Assets is basically everything that you have or own, and liabilities is basically everything that you owe to someone else. And equity is the worth of your organization. So how much is your organization actually worth? Different things that you can see here. I don't have any cash and bank in my own wave, but no issue. Normally you would see here some banks that will pop up and it will show you an amount of how much money you actually have in your bank. I will show also later that it updates automatically as soon as you pay bills or receive money from invoices, that this gets updated as well. Accounts receivable is the amount of money that you're still supposed to get. And long-term assets in general we don't work with, but imagine that you buy a printer as an LC or a computer, then that would fall under long-term assets and you would need to write it off. I'm not going to go into this because we don't owe assets. It's relevant right now. Then under liabilities, you can find the money that you're still supposed to pay, so accounts payable, and other money that you still owe to organizations or people. For example, if we get the caution from the EPs, we need to make sure that it is put under deposits for exchange, because we need to ensure that if the EP comes back, that we are already prepared for the fact that we still need to pay this money. Now, it's very important to keep in mind that your assets should always be bigger than your liabilities. Otherwise, you're going bankrupt. And that could be an issue. Now, in general, what I would also suggest is that there are certain ratios that you need to keep with, but we're not going to go into these ratios right now because also it gets a little bit more complicated, and it's better for me to explain this at a later moment. Yes, under equity, you can see the profit between a certain period, and you can also see something that is called retained earnings. Well, it falls under retained earnings right now, but at some point you're going to close your year and you're going to say, okay, this money is done, we earned this, and it's going to add to your retained net income on a new line. Any questions for the balance sheet? Nope. Okay. I'm not going to open here the cash flow report because I don't use it, but I use a different one. Just need to go to Drive. Give it a sec to load. Yes, I'm quickly going to go into the ones of the LCs of Austria. And yeah, I think we already have a good one here. That is Graz. I think this is, for example, it's not important for you to know the exact numbers. I just want to show you how it works. So basically, at some point, you're going to start this. You're going to start this. And for me, we started from the 1st of August. And you're going to say, no, this is not true. We started from the 1st of September. And you're going to say, I have this amount of money in my bank account at the start of the month. But I want to know am I able to pay my money still in October? Because if you, for example, have high amounts of accounts receivable, there may be an issue with your cash flow and you may not be able to buy everything that you're supposed to buy. So what you're doing is here you put all the lines of money that you're getting this month. So you can think, for example, okay, if I look at the month September, I'm pretty sure I will get 350 euros for accommodation deposit in IGE. So you fill in 350 at the end of August, and you do that for all the lines with money that comes in. You do it for all the lines that for money that goes out in a month, and you also do it for cash paid out, right? So sometimes something is not necessarily on your profit and loss statement because it was already for years on your profit and loss statement, but you're only paying it back on a later time. That's when you put it here. And you can see the cash position at the end of the month, and this is automatically the cash position of the beginning of the month. Very important for you to fill this out on the end of the month. So imagine we've just had August, and we want a cash flow report for September. We start with all the numbers here should be the ones that are realized. So if, for example, let's say we thought at the start of August we would get 250, but at the end of August we actually realized, oh, we only got 150. Then you change it. You change it so to make sure that your cash position at the beginning of September is correct. So this should always be the amount of money that you have in your bank account on the first of a month. Just to show an example. Yes. Any questions concerning the cash flow report? I don't want to go in depth in these three things right now. I'm just giving you the general picture, and we can go more in depth on your LC specifically in January. Okay, now I'm gonna close Slack because that one I can close. Amazing. And we're back to here. Any questions for the cash flow report? I guess not. So these are the three main reports that you will be working with, and the one external. And then what I'm also going to go into is focus on customers and focus on vendors. And I'm just quickly going to do this because I already shortly explained. But under H receivables, at a specific moment in time, you can see how much money people are still owing to you. And it gives you a more complete overview than the one on the dashboard. So in receivables, you can see how many invoices, you can see the total amount in the periods, but also total here. And same story for the H payables. I think this is very self-explanatory. So I'm not going to go into depth for that, but I really want to show you what are the different things that we will be doing in Wave. First of all, going to the Sales tab. Under Sales, basically the only thing that you need to work with is Invoices and Products and Services. And I will explain you why by going to Invoices. Now this is the full page that shows you all the invoices that you created, unpaid, here you can see them all, and which are overdue, which are coming due, and what is the average time to get paid. This one is also good, try to keep this as low as possible. And I'm going to show you what an invoice looks like by going to this one. Oh, wait, I'm going one step too fast now. So I just pressed edit invoice. I want you to know that it is not okay to edit invoices after they've been sent out. If they've been sent out, create a bill for the same amount of money. No, I'm sorry, I'm making a mistake right now. It is okay for you to edit invoices, but not after you have reported on a specific period. Because if you report on a specific period and change invoices in the past, you're doing something really shady because nobody knows what happened to the money. So never ever do this. And auditors will check for this. If it is happening, then you can get into legal issues even. So let's not do that. But in general, the best thing to do is just to take out the invoice and create a new one, so you don't make any mistakes. Yes, this is the invoice page. So if you click on an invoice, you can see who is it, what is the status, how much is it, and when is it due. So it was created on September 28th. I never send the invoice because what I do is I download the invoice and then I send it to someone. You can download the invoice on the page before this. Then here, this is the first important one, is as soon as you get money in your bank account, you can say, I got money on this specific date. I got this amount. They paid with normally bank payments. Try to always focus on bank payments and payment accounts. So where did they put the money? So let's say I'm just going to record the payments right now because it's anyway trial. I'm going to record it into my operational bank account number 1. In general, that's the one that you will be using. Submit. Amazing. My payment was recorded. I'm not going to send a receipt unless someone asks for it, but small chance because the invoice is normally enough. We got the money. Status has been paid. Everything is fixed. And down here, you can see the actual invoice. So you can see all the different products, the quantity, the price, and then what is the total. For this sake, I just use random numbers. Okay, so this is the invoice page. Now, how do you create an invoice? In general, what you do is you go to Invoices. Now you can actually also see that it's here, but it's not anymore here. And you're going to press Create an Invoice. And you get to this page. Now, a couple of things that you need to do on the page. And I'm going to start with customer. Normally, you have a whole list of customers here. And for example, let's say I'm to Isaac and Cats, right? Then normally it would pop up here, Isaac and Cats. But what also could happen is sending an invoice to someone who has never ever had an invoice from us before. This happens with a lot of customers, for example. So you press create a new invoice. Basically, you only have to put the customer here. If you have contact, put first name and last name here as well. But in general, you can, for example, let's say I'm the customer, I'm sending an invoice to, and you know my stuff. And the bill goes to me. Amazing, I'm getting billed. Now a couple of more things. First of all, here you see the invoice number. In general, we have different types of classifications for our numbers. What we always do, I'm going to give an example of your very first invoice. You put AR, which stands for Ausgangsrechnung, which just very simply means an invoice that you're sending to someone. Then the first part of the code is the term that you're working in. So you guys will be working in 90/20. So you put AR 219/2020. And since it's the first invoice, I'm going to put 001. Very simple. Next invoice that I'm going to create is going to be 002, 003, 004. But for this sake, 001. Now, invoice date, put here, and this is also important, the date that the contract, for example, is signed. Right? If you sign a contract with an EP, but you only invoice them a week later, then still put the date of the contract. Because I'm going to give you a very simple example. If I'm signing the contract on the 29th of November, it means that we deserve kind of the money in November. But if I only invoice a week later, then it would be in, oh, that's still November, December. And that's wrong, because then your financial result is not equal to your operational result. So always make sure that this is on the date of contract signing. Normally, like right now it says here for me, oh, why is it not going away? On receipt, that means that the day that you send the invoice, they also need to pay it. You can pick 15 days. 15 days is a very normal thing to put in Austria. So you don't really have to change that. This is all the data that you about to what is the code for it, when does it need to be paid. But now we're going into what is the invoice actually about. So here you can see product, quantity, price, amount, right? And here you see add an amount, add an item. So I'm going to add an item. Here you have to pick something that you put into products and services. But I'm going to quickly put something, and I think it's best for you to understand like what is what. I'm first going to take one that is normal, right? So let's say I'm taking IGE accommodation. IGE accommodation is now the account that we put it under. So this means the money is for the services that I provide in fixing accommodation for our EPs. So for example, a startup needs to pay this to us. So let's say I'm the EP. That is, and the startup needs to pay us. Then I'm gonna say, let's see, what is a good way? Empower Austria accommodation. So right now you can see here that I'm the bill, but normally I send this to the startup, and I have a good classification, because if I now look at the invoice, I know exactly what it is for. That's this part, and who does it concern. So who am I doing this for? Now, normally, let's say you do it for one. If you have multiple EPs, you don't just put all their names here, like let's say Mauricio. You don't put his name there because it gets a bad overview. But you just add another item. Again, you put IGE accommodation, Empower Austria, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go too much into that right now. You don't have the select text. That's the next thing. So normally you have one. If you, for example, organize a conference, I would still suppose to make different lines because it makes it better understandable for other people, for your other party. So here you put the amount, and then you put the price. So let's say 600. I don't know by heart how much people pay for this. So the amounts add up, and here you see the subtotal. So you see the total amount of money, and you could press save and continue right now. I'm not going to do it for the sake that I want to show you something else. So I'm going to show you here a view income account. This item is categorized as IGE accommodation revenue. And this is where the products and services comes in, which I will explain to you in a second. For me, it's a little bit of a more difficult way, but it's how Wave works as a program, and we cannot change that. But in general, you could always check, like, if I, for example, put here, let's say I had another one, and I put, what is an idea? Let's say we have the line income from partners, but I'm going to say partner revenue, just for the sake of showing you how this works. So you create this one, then you press edit income account, and here you can choose like what is the actual income account that it belongs to. Very important that you always pick the right one. So for example, income from partners, right? Because that is what it is linked to. This is basically the name, but this is the account. Quickly gonna push 10 euro in there. It will affect my numbers a bit, but it's fine. I can show you something else with that later. Let's say you have a nice partnership with Erste Bank partnership. Again, you can see that I'm giving a classification. Who is it? What is it for? And in this case, also till from which period is it? Oh, no, I don't want to create anymore. Right, so just to show you how this works. I think that is everything. So you press save and continue. The thing is, the invoice has not been created yet. This is still a draft, which you can see in the status. The next thing that you do is you're going to approve the draft. And you approve the draft, like you can check it again, but in general, you checked it before, so you approve it. I'm going to press skip sending because I don't like because it's not good to send invoices from Wave itself, because we want to keep all communication on our isaac.net email addresses. So you're going to press skip sending, and that's it. So this is the invoice. It's been created, but our customer still needs to get it. So you're going to go to more actions, and you're going to press export as PDF. Download only. Yes, so I have the invoice here. Now, in general, what you should do is rename it. So again, it's clear and everybody knows what it's about. I would always rename it to the code of the invoice. That's a very good way of renaming our invoices. Then you go to your email and you send it, and done. You just need to wait. Again, I still think we only have one viewer. Is it clear how invoices are created?
Yep.
Amazing. Thank you, Natalie. You're being a real big help today.
But yes.
And then we're gonna go to products and services. Like I already shortly explained before, how you create new products and services. But what Wave basically does, it remembers how much money was spent on something. And this is super useful for things as, let's say OGV fee, right? Something that will come a lot. It's not 10 euros in general, but hopefully you will get a lot of OGV exchanges, and you don't want to constantly like put in the amount that is for that specific fee. So it remembers it, which is nice. So you can always add products. I would propose to only do this as soon as it pops up, to not just do like not already make a list, because also me, when I'm putting things in here, sometimes I type it one way, sometimes I type it another way, and then it doesn't find it, and it's just a hassle. But here you can see it. You can even give a description, not necessary, I guess, but put the price in there and you save it. Very simple, just the way that the system remembers which types of things you created. The only thing that I don't see here. Yes, correct. So if you add a product or service, you need to decide, like, is it something that I sell or something that I buy? So let's say we put in OGV. I'm without inspiration, I'm just going to put OGV fee 2, even though it's OGV fee 1. I know that it's 250 euro. No, I'm going to put OGV caution. I don't think I have that. Amazing. I'm going to put 50 euros. I'm going to sell this. Now, where do I put this? Like, where does it belong? I'm going to give you a hint here because basically you would think it's this, but it's not, because it's money that at some point we're going to owe again as well. So, because it's a caution, it's a very specific subject, and we will cover it as well in the upcoming months. But in general, what I would suggest for now is to put it under other income, because I don't want this to show up on my profit and loss. So I'm going to do an action to it later, which I'm also going to explain to you. Save. And it's saving. And I'm going to go back to my invoices to see if it worked. I'm gonna, for now, for the sake of doing this, I'm just quickly gonna edit this invoice. And let's say I'm gonna delete this one, I'm gonna delete this one, but I'm gonna put in OGV caution. Right now it pops up. It's 50 euros, amazing. View income accounts, other income. So good. Save and continue. And I just changed the invoice. Yeah, we're going to go back to it later, what you can do with this 50 euros to make sure it gets correct on the balance sheet, but it's quite complicated, and therefore I will suggest that we go, no, we won't go over it today, but we will go over it in the next months before your term starts. Next point is purchases. Again, you see the products and services here, which is exactly the same as this one, but right now you can do it, for example, for bills that you need to pay. And we're going to go to bills. Yes. Now the bill page looks a little bit differently, as you can see, right? But still you can see different actions. So I'm just going to go to click on this number, and if I'm not mistaken, it opens up my bill. Yes. As you can see, the bill page looks a bit different. Vendor is basically who paid for this, and therefore who do you need to pay for this? So let's say to pay me. I'm gonna add vendor, it's in there. Then here, what is the date on the invoice? Again, think about like if for example, you open the bill on the 3rd of October, but the date on the bill is on the 20th of September, then you need to put it on the 20th of September. And then you also put here like, okay, I need to do it here, but I only need to pay on the 3rd. Just put it like that. Interesting thing is, it will record it as an expense in September, not in October, even though you only need to pay officially in October. I think that's also very important to know. Now let's say we're gonna push for a bill. Bills are always ERs. Very confusing, but it stands for Eingangsrechnung, so the bill that you're getting in. I put this again, and for the sake of the first one, I'm gonna put 001. Now this looks a little bit differently, and it is basically it's the same, but you have the option of changing stuff. So if I put auditor's compensation, this one is changing. If I put conference fund, this one will still say the same. So that's where you need to watch out that you're not making mistakes. I'm paying myself, what shall I? I'm gonna pay myself IPS. And this one I'm also gonna keep IPS. Just make sure that they're the same. Description, let's say snacks IPS on the 2009-2018. Right, so also here again, you can see I put the bill here because that's also the date that IPS happened. How many? 1, and price €3.40. I don't know, something like that. Amazing, and that's it. You can add more lines here with more stuff. It just looks a little bit different. It's in general, it's the same. You save it, and now you can see that there are 2 bills. If you pay your bill, which happens a lot in the same day, you press here, record a payment, bank payment, €3.40, from which account, make sure the right one, so original bank, and I'm gonna save it. So you can see I paid this invoice, amazing. My accounts payables go down, but my bank account goes down as well. That's bills. For the sake of the next part, I'm quickly gonna mark a payment. Oh wait, here, I'm sorry, you need to, that was a mistake of me. For the invoice, do need to, oh, mark as sent here, also fine. So it's sent. I'm gonna say that the payment goes in my operational bank account, submit. So I have this one paid as well. No, someone paid this to me. So that was just quickly bills. I don't think you need to go into any of these. Vendors, maybe. It's the opposite side of customers. So here you can see all the people that paid stuff for you, and you can also create bills for the specific person here. I don't know, it's not that difficult to do it the other way, but if you would like to, you can still do it. Any questions regarding bills and purchases?
No.
Amazing. Then we're gonna go into accounting. And we're gonna start. Yes. So like I already said before, in Austria, we have an aligned chart of accounts. Everyone in the entity has all these accounts and should also have all of these accounts. Then if you want new ones, contact the commission, make sure we discuss it, and we can see what we can do. Most important thing about this is the name, not necessarily the number, even though I would always suggest to have numbers in a certain order. Yes, I'm not going to go in every account right now because that would go too much into depth. But here you can find them, here you can add them, here you can edit them. So you can edit like account type and account name. But in general, you cannot edit too much. And also deleting them is not just possible. You can only archive them, not just delete them. And you should also never delete an account because it may hold information from years ago that we may need in the future when we get an external audit, for example. Yeah, under expenses. Name should be also exactly the same in the whole entity. And I will show you later why. That's this. Now, an important one, and I already said it shortly before, is, for example, for deposits. Because sometimes money needs to be put into different accounts. And that's where you have transactions. Why is transactions not loading? Yes, amazing. See all the different transactions. So you can see what we record. You can see when something gets paid. You can hear all the different accounts that money is in. But in general, the most important thing, what you can do here is adding journal transactions. Now, a journal transaction is nothing different than a reallocation of your money. So let's say I have given you a deposit here, it's 50 euros. And if I look at this transaction, my IGE approved revenue got higher. Wait, what happened here? This is the one that I did a long time ago. Okay, let me see. Then I will go to this one. No. Oh no, wait, I can only see the payments and everything now. I'm gonna delete this one. I'm gonna throw it away. Yes. So now let's say I just had this 50 euros. Give me a second because it should be here. I remember. I'm sorry for a short confusion. Imagine that you're making a journal transaction, right? Because I just paid 50 euros and 50 euros got put into the revenue of the OGV fee. I don't want it to show up in my revenues because I know I will spend it later again. So I'm going to say, okay, deposit OGV Niels Milmeester. I don't remember the exact date, but let's say that the invoice was created on this date. It also means that this one should be on the same date. And I'm going to say, okay, I am, and here's the tricky part. What I'm going to do is I am going to go to OGV, approved revenue, and I'm going to make it 50 euros lower. Because I don't want it to show up on OGV approved revenue. Debit and credit is always confusing still for me as well. What I normally do is I just try it out. If it doesn't work, I change the route. It's very simple. OGV approved revenue 50, but where do I want it to show up? I want it to show up as a liability because I want to say I still need to pay this. So I'm going to put it in deposits for exchange because that's the right account, right? They're exactly linked to each other. And press, oh, I need to fill in for you. Now I want to make sure that I didn't do this wrong. So I'm quickly going to check reports. And if I did it correctly, it needs to show up on the balance sheet of today. So let's see. I'm going to go to details, deposits for exchange. Did it show up correctly? Didn't. Well, did it? Yes, it did. Because you can see, like, I already tried this before, and I basically said, okay, there's a deposit from Mirza. I think I was doing this with Mirza, so that's why. Deposit from Mirza, and then the day after, I was like, okay, now I want to make sure that it gets taken away again. So here it's 0. Right now you can see that under deposits for exchange, so in here, 50 euros means that you still owe 50 euro to me. Now that is where we currently use the journal transactions for. Very important, but we will go deeper into it for which cases you need to use it. Most general one is deposits. And that is basically everything you need to know about the accounting software and what you can do with it. Are there any questions from your side at this moment? Okay, I guess not. Then I'm quickly going to go into the next part, which is realizing. Because realizing and reporting are still the two that need to be done. And for this, I am going to stop sharing my thing. Yes, and I'm going to share you something else. So I'm going to share this one, and now I'm going to share this. Where is it? Yes. This is my realization for Isaac and Austria template. It's quite new. If I'm not mistaken, it doesn't have any mistakes anymore. Yes, it does not have any mistakes. It just has some things that still need to be adjusted to the LC timeline because right now it's still in the MC timeline. But this is basically the way that we're going to do realizations. And the way that we're going to do realizations is that we're going to check a couple of things, but it's super easy. Hit the magic button, like I like to call it, right? So we want to make sure that we can do things automatically without putting too much effort in it. Here it says if you hover over it, 1 is after August, but for you guys it would be after February. 2 is after September. For you guys it will be March. So it basically counts up the months that you have been in your term. This is the only thing you need to change in this whole sheet. The rest is all by itself. Now let's go to top sheet month. No, you know what? We're first going to put some numbers in here because everything is empty right now. Even when I press 1, there will be nothing here. And that's a shame because I think it's good to understand how it works. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Wave. Now I'm going to show you how this works. First thing you need to export is the profit and loss statement of a specific month. For the sake of the numbers that I put in, I'm going to put in October. I'm pretty sure I put in money in October. Let's not take October, let's take September. Yes, perfect. So here you can see I put in them all in, so they will also all appear. But I know you don't use all your accounts in every month. But yeah, as you can see from the description in input sheet, it explains here exactly what are the steps that you need to take to get the correct amount. But I'm going to show you. Right here, you can see from every month, you can see a list and an orange cell. For the sake of showing stuff, I'm going to download September, but I'm going to put it in February. So update report, I have it on details, and I'm going to press export CSV. Now, the full file of September. Extremely important that you always select from the first day of a specific month to the last day of a specific month. Not a longer period, not shorter, exactly 1 month. But I get all these weird numbers that I don't want to have. Right? So I just opened the Excel file, I get all these weird numbers, and I want to correct them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them all. Can you still see this, by the way?
Yes, I do. Sorry.
See the Excel file? Natalie?
Yeah.
You can see the Excel file?
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't show me anymore that I'm sharing my screen, so that's why.
Okay.
So I'm gonna here press, if I selected all of them, and really it's important to select all of them, edit, find, replace, and it's very simple. I want to replace this little weird sign at the start with nothing. So first I need to copy it once. I'm copying it. I'm selecting everything again. Find, replace, and I'm going to say find what, empty, replace all, normal now. Next thing you do is you select from the first line here, not with the number, but just the name and the amount, all the way down. You select them all, you copy them, you go to the realization, and you just paste them in the orange cell that's corresponding. For the sake of showing, again, I'm going to put the same numbers in 3 months, in the first 3 months. Now I'm going to show you what we can do with this, because we want to analyze what do these numbers mean, how well are we doing in certain things. So first of all, we're going to go to the magic button, and we want to see after the first month, right? So first things first, we're going to go to this one. No, first things first. Here, you can see all the realized numbers. They automatically appear here by pasting it in there. So all of them are automatically showing up. Now, we did for the first 3 months, so February, March, April, but imagine that I'm taking out April. So I'm taking out April, I'm going back to the same one, and April has disappeared. It's all at 0. But again, for the sake of showing something, I want to keep them. Cool. Oh, I'm doing something wrong. I keep them. I'm going to paste them here, and they're there. Now, so we put the month at 1, right? So if we go to the month, we can see exactly what we realized in total: revenues, direct costs, and overhead. In which areas? So in exchange, in overhead costs, and in non-exchange. And here, even specifically, what part of exchange and what part of non-exchange. And then overhead costs are all your costs that you need to do in order to run your organization.
Sorry for interrupting, but it's a super delay. Like, I don't know if it's me or the internet, but I have not seen anything you said. Like,
Okay, what was the last thing you heard?
like I've heard you, but like when you're scrolling, it's super slow. So it doesn't match what you're saying. So
I will go slower then.
thank you.
So hopefully you can see the consolidated here. Then you have the different areas here.
Yes.
And then you even have, if you go a little bit more down, hopefully the scrolling caught up, you can see the specifics per area as well.
Mm-hmm.
And normally what you can see is the realized numbers, the budgeted numbers, what is the percentage of that. So for example, if you're above it, then you will be more than 100%, and the difference in total amount, right? So now we got 36 euros more than we budgeted for. The reason why you don't see anything in budgeted is because there is no way to put budget into Wave, so also not to extract it. So at the start of the term, when you're creating your budget, you need to fill this out by yourself. But it makes sense, you always need to create your own budget in that way. So again, for the sake of showing stuff, I'm gonna put in some random numbers. I'm gonna put in some in here, say 10, 10, 10. And I'm gonna put in here. You can see that I'm putting minus for revenue and not minus for costs. That's just the way people do accounting, and I learned that and then I got stuck with it. So that's why these things are also built like that. It's just something that you need to remember. So you can see now here also numbers have appeared. And you can compare with each other. Now, the fact that there's no overhead, let me quickly put in something. I'm gonna put in phone, let's say 100. Going back, now you also see the overhead costs. Overhead costs are allocated over everything according to how much revenue you get for it. So that is why it's right now, for the other ones, you don't see anything. Third part, I will later show you how it appears in your report. You can see in this specific month is how did I do in this month according to my budget. For example, here I can see I earned 2 euros more, 1660 more on direct costs. No, 2760. I'm sorry. And my overhead costs were 75 euros, way higher. You can, by the way, see them here as well. So the result that I realized was 4360, which is positive, so that's good. But I budgeted for a loss. So in general, I'm 103.60 euros better off of all the areas. Then here you can have a view of your total revenues, costs, and total for all of the months. Just, it's easy for you to also see that. Financial ratios. Don't know. We're going to come back to balance sheet and financial ratios in a bit. First, I want to show you all the things that we do with the profit and loss. Then here, we have an overview of the total profit and loss statement for this month. So you can see what did you budget for something specifically, what did you realize, and what is the difference for all the revenues, for all the costs. And down here, you can see the total cost and here the net profit. So this one should always be exactly the same as this one, as the consolidated. Any questions about the month realization?
No.
Amazing. Then we're going to go on to the second part, which is called year to date, the second tab. Because we only selected month number 1, it's only going to select everything till after month 1. So all of these numbers are exactly the same as the ones on the previous page. And loss is going to be exactly the same as you saw on the previous page. There's no difference. But now let's say, because I also put numbers in March and April, let's say we're going to go to look after month 3. Right? You will still see the same numbers, except for budgeted, because I didn't put in the budget for that month. Because the month was exactly the same, but year to date, it's actually exactly 3 times what is here. Also see how well did I do up until now compared to how did I budget for up until now. Very beneficial for you if you're at a later stage in your year, so that you can always look back at like, okay, how well have I done up until now, and do I need to make any drastic changes? The concepts of all these things are the same, right? This will always say the 3 areas should be overhead, not MC. But that's the thing. Like I realized yesterday that I didn't adjust all the names, so I still need to adjust that in the template. But yeah, I think it should be clear. Second thing on this pay and loss statement, it says here this month still, but this is the profit and loss statement year to date. So how well did I do up until now? And again, you can see here the net profit. Don't know why this one is not correct, but it's something that I have to look into. I'm not going to change it right now, even though I was almost about to do it. But in general, you would see here the net profit up until that moment. Is it clear what year to date does?
Yes, I think so.
Amazing. Second last thing that you can see here, and that's forecast. So also what you want to do is, and forecast right now doesn't really work because we didn't put in a budget, but forecast shows you after a specific moment. So at this time, after month 3, how will my final result of the year look like if I follow budget from that moment onwards, right? So you realize something, and then you can always compare it to your budget. And this is very useful in the quarter. What big changes can help you to make sure that you still can change it within the quarter. Yeah. Oh wait, no. Here is it. Forecast. Yes, same concept, but it just shows you forecast versus budgeted, and that's the only thing that you can find on this page. Is forecast also clear? I guess that's a yes. So that is for budget tracking. This is basically how you do your realization. You put in your, like when the month comes, you put in the numbers. Always make sure that if you're, for example, in April, that you still have all the numbers for March and February in there, because that is what it builds upon. It's not just that you put in 1 month. So you need to put in all months separately. I'm going to go now back to Wave. It's not just that you need to input the profit and loss statement, you also need to put in the balance sheet. Yeah, so again, press details, and I'm going to export as CSV. It's the same process as with the budget tracking. Make sure here that you always put the last day of the month that you're realizing. I didn't do it now for the sake, again, of having certain numbers in there. So I get the same. I also get a file, but this shows my balance sheet. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. I still have the weird number here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, find replace weird number with nothing, replace all. Amazing. Now I'm gonna select again. So from the first one under accounts to the number here, I'm gonna go back to this sheet, gonna go to the input sheet, and here you only need to put for the month because it's a snapshot, so it already takes into account all the things that happened previously. Gonna paste it, and now I'm also able to see my balance sheet. So I'm going to top sheet month, and as I already showed quickly before, here you will now have your full balance sheet, kind of the same as in Wave, but I prefer it to be like this because it just gives you an easy, quick overview of all the points. This one is very important. If it says incorrect here, something went wrong with your copy and pasting. If it's green and says correct, it's all fine. Again, I already explained, you can see your assets here in different categories. You can see your liabilities here in different categories. You can see your equity here. The reason why I'm doing this external from Wave, I also want people to put it in here, is because it allows us to check for financial ratios. So here we have different financial ratios that we will be measuring that are important for us to analyze and understand. And you should always copy, for example, if you had last month, copy it to here. Oh, wait, I don't have editing right now to here, but it's fine. So you know what was it last month, what it is this month, what is the difference, and what should be the ideal state. So where do I need to push for? I will also put still in the definitions of all the financial what they mean. Generally, discussing commission calls. That's the reason that we're also putting the balance sheet in here. I'm going to continue with this. If there are any questions, you can also still ask them at the end or at a different moment. That was a long talk, but that was the realization. I'm closing it. So we just covered accounting, realizing, and now lastly, we're going to go into reporting. And reporting is going to be quite short. Reporting is not quite short, but it's very important. I already explained in the beginning, we're creating reports to show the financial state to your EB or plenary and to make them understand how are they themselves also responsible for this. So I'm going to give you a very quick overview of how my report looks like and how I think everyone should also present their reports. So first you start with the balance sheet. You're showing quickly the balance sheet. You can discuss this, but mainly you want people to go through it and then for them to understand, because lots of people have no clue what this means. And I understand. I also, before I did this, I really had no clue what I should read from here and what it means. That is why financiers should always translate financial statements to normal words, so to say, and help people understand it. But also, you don't need to explain everything. For example, you see here 65 euros in the cash box. Nobody needs to know why 65 euros in the cash box, so you don't need to go over it. You just give main observations. So for me, when I look at this one, high amount of outstanding receivables, focus is needed for debtor management. And yes, you can see there's almost 22,000 euros of accounts receivables in this one, which is 2 times as much as the money that I actually have. Short-term debits need to be paid as the money has been outstanding for a while. I know that the short-term debits were already outstanding for a while, so I needed to put focus on paying them. Pass-through needs to be cleaned up as it needs to be empty. A pass-through account, as the name says, it's just to pass through money, and there should not be any value in there. But there was at that moment, so I needed to give that observation. And lastly, net income up until now promises a positive result for the start of this year. I can indeed see that the net income is positive, so that helps us to see that we're on the right track. Yes. So quickly, that is what I would explain in the balance sheet. Then you go into budget versus actual, so everybody knows how is our plan achievement in finance. And I didn't screenshot and copy paste, but I would suggest you do. But you can show them exactly the points that are in the realization as well. Just run it through. For example, in the consolidated, you can say that you were realized way more profit than you budgeted for. That comes from the fact that exchange went way better, and then mainly the exchange in the ICX side went really well, but also on the OGX side, we did better than expected. When it comes to MC, we managed to cut a lot of overhead costs here from the budgeted amount. So we were spending less money. And non-exchange and event number 1, you can see that right now non-exchange is the full thing about event number 1, so they're exactly the same. But you can see that we also did way better than expected. Now, all of these things you can go through quite fast, and you can explain them as they are. Just what is the state per thing. Sorry, I'm going too fast with scrolling. And then you're going to go into what is really going on. So you pick the ones that are most obvious, and you say the account that it belongs to, what was budgeted, what is actual, and what effect does this have on us as an organization, and why was this? Now, this is what is, for me, one of the most important things about finance, is that you actually explain why things happened, because otherwise you're treating numbers passively. So before you're creating this financial report, you should also go to every functional VP and say, hey, I saw that IGT revenue, OGT approved revenue, MC was way lower. Why is this? Well, less exchange provided by MC than expected. TMAS considers the number they committed to, or make me change them next budget. Just an explanation of every driver and what your personal opinion about it is. Now, that was budget versus actual. Also, what you could see was year to date. So how have we done up until now? I'm not going to go extremely through this because I already explained it. And what you can do here is you do this. I copied the numbers for the sake of explaining it, but you can explain, okay, what are the main drivers up until now, and why do they differ from budget versus actual? And then the last part is forecast. We can now this for the different areas. It's like this. MC is this, and on exchange it's this. And then you go again to the forecasted result. So what was actually budgeted, what is the forecasted result, and explain why have these things changed so much. And that is it. That is the way that we do financial reporting. Again, this is a simple template, and I will share this template also with the commission, with you guys, to make sure that you understand what is what the framework for the reporting looks like. So that was it for today. This was for financial processes. There will be at least 3 more points coming up in the next week, which I will give a session on as well. They will also stay online, so you can always check them throughout the year. And if you need any help or have questions, suggestions, feel free to contact me. Yes, and because I want everyone to watch this video, I'm going to put a question now here right at the end that you can only know if you actually watch the video, and I will send out a survey for you to answer the question. And the question will be, let me see, what am I going to put as a question, because this I didn't put in. Yes, the question is going to be, what do we use a journal transaction for? That I showed. Cool. That's the question. I will send out the form. You can fill it in. And yeah, I hope to see you and all the other people who are watching this later again next time. And that's it from my side. Do you still have any questions that you would like to ask now?
No, but thank you a lot. This was helpful. So,
thank you for attending, and yeah, let's stay in touch, because I guess we will be working together for next year.
mm.
Cool. Okay, see you. Bye bye.